Hi, we are back with our possum friends as well, and Sam is with us.
Say hi.
Our in-house expert. And as I've told you earlier, Sam is not just an expert, he's also a pet whisperer. He's not the star of this video. This is Varis. Varis, you are not.
Varis needs belly rubs.
Varis, anyway, while this is happening, let me just tell you what we're going to talk about today. Well, Sam thinks that everyone is wrong and everyone is making mistakes as far as pet parenting is concerned. In fact, he says even the most seasoned pet parents who've kept pets for years are making these mistakes, and we're going to count down few mistakes that you could be making. Just see whether Sam is right or you're right. So Sam, you think all of us are making some mistakes?
Yes.
Most of us.
Yes. Because again, it's about tuning cognitive abilities. In your previous video, I did sort of briefly mention about it. First, I think problem statement would be that we are trying to gauge an animal when it is too late. So when we see, very severe symptoms of sickness, it is only then that we start to, essentially remedy, go to a doctor, try to figure it out. But there are very simple telltale signs which are sitting in every household. We are not looking at those. For example, your dog is, chewing plants.
Right.
मिट्टी खा रहा है, दीवारें चाट रहा है. It's a symptom. I don't want to sort of talk about the exact what each symptom stands for, but there are symptoms in these peculiarities, right? It's just not a habit.
But many times, people believe that घास खा रहा है, कोई बात नहीं, उसका पेट खराब है.
हाँ, so पेट खराब क्यों है?
करने को अपने आप ठीक कर लेगा.
नहीं, अपने आप ठीक नहीं कर लेगा.
A lot of people are a great believer of not meddling with nature and कि अपने आप ठीक कर लेते हैं. ये
but then आपको ये भी समझना पड़ेगा कि then nature has the power to take away an animal also. Right? Okay. Are you willing to live with those consequences?
Stuck.
No, but then that is the reality. If there are worms of a certain nature in the stomach, they're eating into an animal's complete nutrition. Do you realize some of the cleanest dogs, in the world would sometimes die of tick fever? I don't want to talk about animal death, but think of it like this. And they just got one tick from somewhere, but that was infected, and that could, alter the blood work of an animal to a point where the platelet count has gone to a minus something, right? So again, when a dog is sitting with you, while he's sitting here with me, what he's doing, I'm looking at his skin. I am basically trying to see how healthy he is, right? And that assessment is mine. Look at key tip. Look at an animal's stool. Don't think of it as a usual activity wherein it's business as usual. No, the health of a mammal can be fully seen from the quality of the stool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you feel that most of us are not even aware when the symptoms start showing up. We are only aware once they start becoming sick.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so you need to be a little bit more.
You have to be cognizant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one mistake that all of us are making is probably being a little ignorant about how our dogs are doing, is what you think. Okay, what is a mistake that you feel could be termed as mistake number 2?
Mistake number 2 would be being overconfident in a dog's abilities to come back home. Right? It is absolutely fantastic to see some families which will let a dog off leash, right? But what are the consequences of it? What if the dog runs away? What is your call word? Have you ever practiced that scenario? Right? You have to practice, right? When you see a hiker in Australia or Switzerland, क्या हो गया बताओ? हाँ. So I know you're not going to run away, but the reality of the matter is that what is your call word? Do you have a ball in your? Is he attached to a certain thing? Do you have a ball that he responds to? What is going to be your call word? Do you have a whistle with you that he recognizes? Have you ever practiced that? But you're willing to let your dog off leash?
People feel that if they call out to their dog, call him by name and their voice, then the dog will come back. Yeah,
they should try that in a closed environment, and then they would understand. You have to understand domesticated animals have. Sir, 1 minute. I'll just make it more comfortable. Yeah. So the people have not tried it. ये बहुत मुश्किल है भाई इस कुत्ते के साथ तो बैठना.
No, it's okay. Let him play. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You continue with your training.
It's very easy to see a hiker, in the western part of the world and see, the dog has, been walking with him for the last 12 kilometers, has not run away. Even if he's sort of digressed from the path, they sort of meet again. But, it's also a trainable trait. So you need to train your animal for that. You have to see a safe environment. Today, luckily, at least in the metropolitans in India, we've got a lot of fenced environments where the animal can be safe. But think of a situation where your dog can get into a fight with another dog, and it can result in something.
Okay, that's something very worrisome, and most people don't even plan for it, and that is the reason why probably we see so many Facebook posts about missing dog or a dog found just roaming around abandoned or whatever. Many times they're not abandoned. Okay, so 2 things I've understood. Now what would be mistake number 3?
Mistake number 3 is deworming. We think we are on our schedules. I cannot even count the number of animals that I've seen which are lost to people not following the deworming regimen correctly, or assuming the dog weight. Sit down. So most people have not figured that out. They're not religious about it. Deworming, I think, is, in my mind, if you live in a clean environment, your animals are not exposed to the worst viruses, deworming is a bigger problem than even vaccinations. So that, I think, has to be the most. Hi baby. So it has to be one of the most important, rigorous schedule. You have to write it. You have to have your reminder set up by Siri, Alexa, whatever works for you. You have to be religious with respect to your deworming.
Are usually parents negligent about it?
Yes, because again, people are treating the symptoms. They would say, it is due in, for example, on the 1st of January, but then they'll go on the 15th of January. But what they've not realized is,
just a 15-day delay.
Yeah, what will happen is, the efficacy of the previous dose has already, gone down. You don't know what exposure or worm exposure has happened in the recent past. And if they manifest, to a point which is much major. So when you go through that same deworming cycle, 15 days delayed, sometimes, the amount of worm infestation in the stomach can be huge. So you have to go back, like clockwork on this.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So and one small tip, which a lot of, unfortunately, veterinary doctors also, I don't see them prescribing, is do not use the same dewormer, especially for dogs and cats, consecutively, because the worms can get immune. It's like using all-out hit. Whatever you're using as a mosquito repellent at your home, should be changed ever so often. Change your ghee, change your refined oils. Similarly, change dewormers, because the worms inside the stomach, they never go to a 0 after a deworming cycle. They still remain. They basically
they adapt. The ones that survive.
Yes. So it's like you're not completing an antibiotic course, and the antigens essentially have adopted against that. So there are antibiotic tests in the world for humans also. Post-operative care, sometimes people realize why they're not responding to post. Sit down. Good boy. So that's something.
Okay. So deworming is something that you need to keep an eye out for. I am quite surprised. I did not think that even a 15-day delay could actually mean that much. Okay, because we even tend to, with children also, with their vaccination, we think, okay, 4 दिन 5 दिन इधर.
See, vaccinations are a different ball game. In fact, I have a view which is very, very sit down, good boy, sit down.
He's totally in love with you.
That he is. So give me a second. हाथ निकालो, फंस जाएगा. अच्छा. So vaccinations, I believe, what the medical companies prescribe as the booster date or the periodicity is, I believe, overzealous. It is over enthusiastic. Even if there is a slight delay in the vaccination cycle, you will not see a huge repercussion if it's an adult dog, right? If it's gone through its for puppy stages, it is imperative to be done like clockwork. So it's important to be done like clockwork, but deworming, affects a dog or a cat at any stage of their life, right?
Okay. Okay. What would be your other accusation of a mistake that the seasoned pet owners are also making?
Where they procured their dog from. Just because somebody is known to be a reputable breeder does not mean he or she actually is following accepted practices in terms of ethical breeding, right? have you ever seen the child nurse with its mother? What age did you procure your puppy at or kitten at, right? There are ages of deweaning. Hi baby. There are ages before which an animal must not be deweaned, because there is absolutely important social skill and antibody that a dog. गिर गया? बैठ जाओ सर. बैठ जाओ.
Stop being so clingy, Varis.
Sit down.
So apart from deworming, what is it that you would accuse even the seasoned pet owners of?
The sources or the origins of your pet animal. Ideally you should get a dog, a cat or a horse from a reputable breeder, because when it is his reputation, the reputation of his or her livestock, and all of that also. However, you must, if a breeder is shy of showing you your upcoming pup, kitten with their mother, there is something to hide, right? Think of it like this, and this is not body shaming, but is Hrithik Roshan shy of removing his shirt in Pathan? No, he isn't. Or if it was John Abraham, for that matter, whoever, or in war, a guy who has the physique to flaunt will do that, right? You'd hardly see, somebody who's really out of shape, is not really taking care of himself, be very, very outgoing about it, right? So when a breeder is not showing you the origins of an animal, there is a reason behind it, and that's where you have to look. So be very, very sure of where you're sourcing your animal from, how transparent the breeder is, and ask, like, in a job interview, if you're at that stage of your life wherein you interview people, think of it like this. You'd say that what is something that you're great at, and what is something that you lack in that you'd like to improve upon, and that one answer tells you about everything.
But what do we ask the breeders or the?
I want to see the puppy with the parents.
So how? Like videos or video call?
No, a video call is a good way, but why can't he invite you? Of course,
sometimes you're getting a puppy from, let's say, another city.
Absolutely, you can absolutely speak to somebody who would be associated with the Kennel Club of India to see how many litters they're having, how many litters a certain bitch has had. If a bitch is being bred every 6 months, I don't know what she has to give and what quality of life she has. If a cat has been doing that just because she's of a rare species, a mare, if on every season, you're doing that, as soon as the colt is away, you're putting the mare through the same cycle over and over again, you've completely depleted. It's unethical, it is inhuman, but also it will also tell you if there are foundations to a bigger problem which is upcoming.
Okay.
Yeah. And the problems can be like parvovirus, distemper, some of those diseases. Most puppies, a dog is most vulnerable when it is a puppy, right? For example, you procured a puppy and within 40 days, 30 days of it coming from a breeder, there is a infestation that happens, the puppy passes away. Why? Now the family will say, I have never taken this puppy outside, the puppy has been at home, we've been cleaning him, we've been cleaning our hands. How did he get parvo? It is probably coming from the breeder. I'm not saying all cases it happens, but due diligence, buyer beware. There is a statement that.
So absolutely. If you're getting a dog, at least find out where the dog is coming from or the cat is coming from. So that's kind of important. And if Mr. Varis will let you proceed, would you give us one more mistake? Or do you have more?
Yeah, I will most certainly talk about socialization, and I cannot sort of emphasize, and I say human socialization and animal socialization both. It is extremely imperative that you connect through your networks, your apartments, condos, wherever you are, as to making sure that your puppy is dealing with elderly dogs, younger dogs, aggressive dogs, softer dogs, within your care and caution, within your supervision. But please socialize them early, otherwise you're making sure that their environment is going to give them anxiety, and they're not prepared for the streets, in that sense, wherein you're taking him for a walk, he will pick up a fight with the strongest, most dominant dog in your locality and will get bitten. Similarly for horses, again, like, you don't start riding a horse immediately, but you start introducing, your colt to, other adult males and females constantly, so that, it is usual. Otherwise, if you one day, take a beautiful animal out to a horse show, you would realize, the animal is a threat to his own life. He's a threat to others' lives as well. In bigger animals, but in even smaller animals like dogs, it could be critical. You can have a fall, you can have a fracture. Please make sure that your animal is, one, the kind of animal that fits into your ecosystem, and secondly is understand social hierarchy of animals, which is very different from humans.
Right, we've seen that, those small dogs being aggressive towards bigger dogs without even being aware of their own size and their
a lot of times you'd see these videos, on Instagram, wherein somebody just gets pulled along with a dog because somebody else, sent an off-leash German Shepherd your way or Rottweiler your way, and then they don't know how to control it. So there is a concept in tort law which says that it's something called absolute liability, which means if you have something which is life-threatening, to people, who own this and others, then the responsibility is also absolute. So it's imperative that you socialize your animal to a point and only have an animal that you can deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's even more important, considering that we are living in urban landscapes and sometimes in condos, in societies where it can be at any point become a threat to a vulnerable individual,
that is right.
A child or
an untrained Rottweiler many years ago, I believe, it happened. It was the most unfortunate thing to have happened in India, wherein 2 or 3 Rottweilers at a farmhouse had killed a presswala's child. How did that happen? I can show you Rottweilers who will be more sober than cows. They would not react to anything because they are very secure and they are very well socialized. So you need to figure out.
Okay.
I think it's time.
I can see he's very socialized with you.
Yeah, he's very socialized with others as well.
He's currently just sticking to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have listed quite a few mistakes that people are making, and I guess this could be a way for you to introspect and figure it out if you are making those mistakes or not. And if you feel you can add to the list, then do comment below and tell us, and we'll tell Sam. And if you have any questions as well, do ask us. Sam and I are going to, I of course cannot answer the expert questions, but Sam is going to help us answer all those questions. And if you feel there are topics that you want us to talk about, then we will do that as well. So it's a bye here from me, from Sam and Varis. Varis?
Say bye.
Varis? Say bye. Bye.